Accra to take part in the 6th mid-year coordination meeting of the African Union. He is to give a speech tackling the role of the NEPAD in boosting African integration under the umbrella of 2063 agenda. The Prime Minister will also tackle fundamental files related to development of efforts aimed at boosting economic integration among countries of the African Union. Sidelines of the NEPAD meeting, Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli held a meeting with the Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. During the meeting, Madbouli stressed the importance role the agreement can play in boosting intra-African trade. He also said that Egypt backs the Secretariat of the FTA in Oran.
President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairperson of the African Union, Your Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana and host of the 60th Mid-Year Coordination Meeting, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency Mr. Moussa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency Dr. Adesina Akinwumi, President of the African Development Bank, Your Excellencies, former heads of state and government here present, honorable ministers, Your Excellency Dr. Monique Sazabagano, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellencies, commissioners of the AUC, Your Excellencies, ambassadors, members of the Permanent Representatives Committee, Your Excellencies, heads of AU organs, regional economic communities, regional mechanisms. I also recognize members of press here present, all protocols duly observed. May I now humbly request His Excellency President of the AU, of the Republic of Mauritania and Chairperson of African Union to call this meeting to order. Thank you.
Excellence, Monsieur Nana Addo.
Your Excellency, Mr. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana, distinguished heads of state, and Your Excellency, Mr. Musa Faki Mohammed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, heads of African Union organs, heads of the regional economic committees, ladies and gentlemen, may I start by wishing all of you a very warm welcome to Accra. I am happy to now declare the session open. The meeting, the media coordination meeting with the regional economic communities. I now want to call on the protocol of the African Union to take us through the agenda for this morning. Protocol, you have the floor now.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates, may I humbly call all of you to rise for the African Union anthem and the national anthem of the Republic of Ghana. Thank you. Your Excellency Mohammed Sheikh Al-Ghazwani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairperson of the African Union. Your Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo, President of the Republic of Ghana. Your Excellencies, heads of states and governments of the African Union member states here present. Your Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Excellencies, Honorable Ministers here present, Your Excellency Dr. Monique Insanza Baganwa, the Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Excellencies, Commissioners and all leadership of the Commission here present, Your Excellency Dr. Akinomi Adishina, President of the African Development Bank Group, Your Excellency Professor Benedict Okey Orama, President and Chairperson of the Board of Directors of the African Export-Import Bank, Excellencies, Ambassadors, members of the Permanent Representatives Committee here present, Excellencies, heads of regional economic communities and regional mechanisms and heads of African Union organ, Excellencies, the leadership, the chairperson of the board and the president of the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, BADIA, Excellencies, distinguished members of the diplomatic corps, distinguished members of the press here present, distinguished delegates, all protocol observed, a very good morning to all of you. It gives me immense honor and pleasure to welcome you all and take you through the opening ceremony of the 6th Mid-Year Coordination Summit being held today on the 21st of July 2024 here at the Grand Arena, Accra International Conference Center in this very beautiful and magnificent capital city of Accra. The Mid-Year Coordination Summit is a principal forum for the African Union, the regional economic communities, and the African Union organs that assist in enhancing the alignment and coordination of their work in implementing the continental integration agenda. This intends to assess the status of the African regional integration and coordinate the efforts of all stakeholders in realizing the aspiration of peaceful and prosperous the Africa we want. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, having said so, the program of today's opening ceremony will stand as follows. We will have a statement by His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana. We shall then have a statement by His Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, following which we will have the opening statement by His Excellency Mohammed Sheikh Al-Ghazwani, the President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and the Chairperson of the African Union. Immediately after the opening ceremony, we shall have the official presidential family photo of the session at the designated area just in front of this room. Without any further ado, I now have the honor to request His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana, to deliver his statement. Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, the President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairperson of the Authority of Heads of State, and Government of the African Union, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, members of the Bureau of the African Union, Your Excellency, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, the Deputy Chairperson and AU Commissioners, the Secretary General of the Secretariat of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to Accra, Ghana's vibrant capital, and to the 6th mid-year coordination meeting of the African Union. As we say in Ghana, Akwaba, our word of welcome. You're amongst the people who pride themselves on their sense of hospitality. I hope that by the end of your brief stay, you will agree with this claim. The AU's mid-year coordination meetings over the past 6 years, involving members of the Bureau of the Union, the heads of the regional economic communities, the heads of the regional mechanisms, and the members of the AU Commission, are mainly focused on our continental integration agenda, building on and reviewing the progress made so far in implementing our continental integration initiatives. Today's meeting will thus provide an opportunity for us to assess our progress so far, addressing challenges confronting us, strengthen coordination, and drive our economic growth and development. I must perforce stress that on the sidelines of this summit, we have earlier this morning commemorated the 50th anniversary of the establishment of the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, BADEA, a celebration which reflects the enduring legacy of Arab-African collaboration and the shared vision for a thriving future. Indeed, the bank has made extensive contributions to financing infrastructure projects, boosting trade, and supporting socio-economic development initiatives across Africa. Continued and enhanced partnerships with BADEA are key to advance further Africa's development goals. Excellencies, the need for innovative financing and the establishment of African Union financial institutions to support the second decade of Agenda 2063 is of the utmost necessity. The findings from evaluation of the first decade of Agenda 2063 underscore the critical need to consolidate fragmented financial instruments for development. Currently, our financial landscape is scattered with numerous institutions and initiatives operating in silos. This fragmentation leads to inefficiencies, duplication of efforts, and suboptimal utilization of resources. I therefore call for consolidation and employ our AU institutions to provide the technical and strategic recommendations as to how this can be done. By consolidating our development funding instruments, we can create a more cohesive and effective financial framework that ensures resources are allocated where they are most needed. This consolidation will not only streamline our efforts, but will also improve our capacity to mobilize domestic and external resources efficiently. It will enable us to scale up our investments in key areas such as education, infrastructure, healthcare, and technology, driving comprehensive and sustainable development across the continent. Central to the realization of this vision is the establishment of the 3 African financial institutions, the African Central Bank, the African Investment Bank, and the African Monetary Fund. The creation of these institutions is vital to achieving the financial stability and economic integration necessary for the successful implementation of Agenda 2063. The African Central Bank will harmonize monetary policies and ensure currency stability across the continent, mitigating the risks associated with exchange rate volatility and creating a predictable economic environment that fosters investor confidence and facilitates intra-African trade. A stable and unified monetary policy will reduce transaction costs and increase the efficiency of our financial systems. Concurrently, the African Investment Bank will be instrumental in mobilizing and allocating resources for large-scale development projects, providing the financial backbone for key infrastructure and development initiatives, and accelerating progress towards the high aspirations of Agenda 2063. It will serve as a catalyst for investments in infrastructure, technology and human capital, which are fundamental to transforming the socio-economic landscape of Africa. Additionally, the African Monetary Fund will provide financial assistance to member states facing balance of payments issues and economic shocks, boosting monetary cooperation and stability among African nations. By reducing its dependency on external financial institutions and promoting sound fiscal and monetary policies, the African Monetary Fund will support macroeconomic stability and entrench financial sovereignty across the continent. The consolidation of our financial instruments under these institutions will strengthen our position in the global financial system. It will enable us to negotiate from a position of strength and unity, leveraging our collective resources and capacities to achieve our development goals. By integrating our financial systems, we will not only create a more robust and resilient African economy, but also improve the quality of life for our people through improved access to essential services and opportunities. Excellencies, the establishment of these financial institutions is not merely an administrative exercise. It is a bold and visionary step towards a unified, prosperous, and self-reliant Africa. It will be a testament to our collective resolve to take control of our financial destiny and build a future that reflects the true potential of our continent. The political will, commitment of our governments, and the African Union Commission are essential in driving this agenda forward. We must ensure that the legal frameworks and the requisite financial resources are in place to support the establishment and functioning of these institutions. The consolidation of our financial instruments is crucial for leveraging domestic resources more effectively. It allows for better coordination of development projects and ensures that funds are directed towards the most impactful areas. This approach reduces redundancies and augments the efficiency of our financial system, ensuring that every dollar spent contributes maximally to our developmental goals. The establishment of the African financial institutions will help finance the implementation of our continental strategies, such as the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, the Continental Education Strategy for Africa, Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa, etc. The financial stability and resources provided by the African financial institutions will enable us to invest in the pillars of these continental strategies and programs to prepare our youth particularly for the challenges of the 21st century. At this gathering, we must address the pressing security issues in Sudan, the rampant terrorism in the Sahel, which has led to a multiplicity of unconstitutional changes of government in the area, the ongoing struggles in the Horn of Africa, and the continuing conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and make appropriate recommendations for the 2025 Summit of the Union. These regions are plagued by conflict, instability, and violence that hinder their development and pose a threat to the broader continental security. The summit should focus on formulating comprehensive strategies to enhance regional security cooperation, strengthen counterterrorism efforts, and support conflict resolution initiatives. By fostering collaborative frameworks, the African Union can leverage collective resources and expertise to address these challenges effectively, ensuring sustainable peace and stability across the continent. The establishment of robust mechanisms for intelligence sharing, capacity building for local security forces, and the mobilization of international support will be fundamental in tackling these multifaceted security issues. Excellencies, illicit financial flows continue to pose a great challenge to our continent's development. The findings of the Mbeki Commission on illicit financial flows from Africa, made as far back as 2011, have shed light on the alarming scale at which resources are being illicitly siphoned out of our economies. Despite the recommendations and the call to action, we have struggled to curb effectively these flows. The persistence of illicit financial flows undermines our ability to finance development projects, weakens government structures, and perpetuates inequality. It is imperative that we intensify our efforts to implement the Commission's recommendations, strengthen our legal and regulatory frameworks, and enhance international cooperation to combat these illicit activities. By reclaiming these lost resources, we can boost our development financing and ensure that the wealth generated within Africa remains in Africa to benefit our people. Another crucial proposal I would like to highlight is the initiative made by Ghana at the last AU Summit for African countries to deposit 30% of their sovereign reserves into African multinational banks, instead of allowing these resources to lie passively in foreign banks, often at negative interest rates. This initiative aims to strengthen our self-reliance and reinforce the capacity of African financial institutions. By retaining a sizable portion of our reserves within the continent, we can enhance the stability and liquidity of our financial systems, providing a stronger foundation for economic growth. This approach will also empower our banks to support large-scale developmental projects and create a more resilient financial ecosystem that is less dependent on external financial institutions. I am hopeful that the AU Commission will complete soon its evaluation of the proposal so that action can be taken on it as quickly as possible. In light of the foregoing discussions on global tax reforms, I wish to draw your attention to the recent proposal by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, for a 10% tax on multinational companies operating in the localities of their operations. This proposal seeks to ensure that these corporations contribute fairly to the economies where they generate their profits. For Africa, this would represent a substantial increase in tax revenues, which can be directed towards critical developmental initiatives. It is essential that we as a continent support collectively this proposal and work towards its implementation, ensuring that multinational companies pay their fair share and that the benefits of their operations are equitably distributed to foster inclusive growth and development. Excellencies, the issues of reparations for the historical injustices of slavery, colonization, and exploitation remains a moral and economic imperative. The legacy of these injustices continue to manifest in economic disparities and social inequalities across our continent. Reparations are not merely about financial compensation. They're also about acknowledging the historical wrongs and fostering a process of healing and reconciliation. We must together advocate for reparations as a means to address these historical injustices and invest in the future of our continent. We should propose that the next AU summit takes appropriate measures to formalize and advance our demand and establish the institutional framework that will enable us achieve our goal. I also want to bring to Your Excellency's attention to the Brazzaville Declaration on Forests, a critical document that underscores our commitment to sustainable forest management and conservation, which has emanated from the recent Summit on Afforestation and Reforestation that was held recently on 5th July 2024 in Brazzaville, capital of the Republic of Congo, under the chairmanship of His Excellency President Denis Sassou Nguesso, one of our most respected leaders. This declaration is intended to be an indication of our dedication to preserving our natural heritage and combating climate change. I propose that we adopt the Brazzaville Declaration as the common African position on afforestation and reforestation at next year's AU Summit. By doing so, we reaffirm our commitment to environmental sustainability and demonstrate our leadership in global environmental governance. The implementation of this declaration will play a vital role in protecting our forests, promoting biodiversity, and ensuring sustainable livelihoods for our communities. Finally, Your Excellencies, I'd like to stress the need for enhanced domestic resource mobilization. The successful implementation of Agenda 2063 hinges significantly on our ability to be inward-looking on resource mobilization. Domestic resource mobilization is essential for reducing our dependency on external aid and ensuring the sustainability of our development initiatives. By enhancing our internal financial resources, we can create a more stable and predictable funding environment for our long-term gains. This approach not only fosters self-reliance, but also strengthens our economic sovereignty, enabling us to chart our own course towards sustainable development. We need a multifaceted strategy that includes improving tax collection systems, curbing illicit financial flows, and leveraging public-private partnerships. Enhancing the efficiency and capacity of our tax administrations will ensure that we can capture a larger share of domestic revenues, which can be reinvested into important sections such as education, healthcare, and infrastructure. Additionally, by addressing illicit financial flows and capital flight, we can prevent the loss of valuable resources that are vital for our development efforts. Public-private partnerships also present a viable mechanism for mobilizing additional resources by attracting private sector investment into public projects, thereby amplifying our development impact. When we rely primarily on domestic resources, we are more accountable to our citizens, fostering greater transparency and inclusiveness in our development processes. This alignment strengthens the social contract between governments and their citizens, promoting public trust and participation in governance. By prioritizing this approach, we can ensure that the implementation of Agenda 2063 is driven by African solutions for African challenges, paving the way for a future where our continent thrives through its own efforts and ingenuity. In conclusion, Your Excellencies, we have been given the responsibility to develop our Union's financial institutions, which is more than 10 years old. We are less than 60 member states that form the Union, yet we're delaying the task given to us by a population which is approximated to be 1.4 billion people. Your Excellencies, what this means is that we have an awesome responsibility to ensure that our integration agenda, encapsulated in the Agenda 2063, becomes a reality. Indeed, we have a rendezvous with history, and we must produce the best possible legacies as leaders on the continent for the African Union to meet the aspirations of our people. It is my prayer that God will endow us with the wisdom to be able to gather the best vision, programs and policies, the humility to be able to listen to everybody and siphon off right policies from wrong policies, and the tenacity to do what is right and good for the people of Africa. If we're able to do this, then someday when the High Court of History sits in judgment and asks all of us what we did with the opportunity that was entrusted to us to change the direction and history and future of the people of Africa, I hope we'll be able to say that we did our maximum best for Africa as a result of our involvement in the process of developing our Union's financial institutions. I thank you all for your attention and look forward to our collective progress for the Africa we want, and welcome you once again to our club.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. President, and we highly appreciate the warm hospitality extended to the African Union and all distinguished delegates here present. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me now to invite His Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, to deliver his statement. Your Excellency.
Your Excellency Muhammad Ul-Sheikh Al-Ghazwani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and the Chair of the African Union. Let me reiterate to you, Your Excellency, my congratulations for your election as President of Mauritania and wish you the best. Your Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana, Excellencies Head of State, Government and Delegations, Excellency Mahamadou Issoufou, former President of Niger and the AFCFTA champion, Honorable Ministers, Madam Deputy Chairperson of the Commission, distinguished Commissioners, Excellencies Ambassadors, Excellency Dr. Akin Adesina, President of the African Development Bank Group, Professor Benedict Oroma, President and Chairman of Afrexim Bank, Madam CEO of ODA-NEPAD, Secretary General of AFCFTA Secretariat, CEO of APRN, Director General of Africa CDC, Chief Executives of the Regional Economic Communities and Mechanisms, Excellencies, Head of African Union Organs, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to extend my warmest thanks to His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, President of Ghana, and to the government and people of Ghana for their excellent hosting of this 6th Coordination Summit, and even more so for all the efforts invested in its preparation to ensure the conditions of conviviality and comfort needed for its full success.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, at a time when I'm regretting a certain weakening of Pan-Africanism, the convening of the meeting here in this beautiful country exalts Pan-Africanism, which resonates eternally in a doctrine of Kwame Nkrumah, never faded. It continues that each time that we tread on this land, that it rewinds us and awakens in us a dream, a design of our struggle of today and tomorrow. For me, this is the last summit of coordination and reminds me of the souvenirs that is of the efforts made for African integration, is an invitation to a deep meditation. These issues that have become utopia, which have all geared towards collective and inclusive well-being. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the African Union was born from this project. It did not give up because of the complex nature and all the vicissitudes and difficulties that it faces, either by the intimidation that has been generated by the various crises, economic and political, and also the erratic trajectory of our movement. Under the impetus of our heads of state and government, the flame and the torch of this major project remain lighted. Sometimes maybe it has been flickering with the various contrary winds. Here we are with the 6th edition of our Coordination Summit. The coordination between the Regional Economic Community, the African Union Commission and the regional mechanisms under a revised protocol that clarifies the roles and a more attuned clarification of role. What would the African Union be without the regional economic communities? A locomotive without wagons. And what would the RECs be without the Union? That is a disparity of regional entities without any cement, without any anchoring, without any reference or global vision. I have been thinking aloud, which is an open secret, that is, our RECs are not doing well. Their effectiveness, their credibility, and their faith in the general venture of unity has unfortunately been eroded. The African Union itself is witnessing a disaffection which is so evident at our summits. Who among us has not been frustrated by observing that the summits after summits, without even one president, except for the chairman who is presiding over, and then in the end there are no ministers and very few even ambassadors. I think this recurrent picture is ravaging our credibility, and awakening is an imperative need at the level of the RECs as well as at the level of the continental organization. Excellency Mr. Chairman, the results of the integration efforts crystallized in the operationalization of the African Continental Free Trade Area. It is an achievement which in itself embodies the dimension of regional integration. It has and its optimal functioning presupposes that there are a number of problems that impede a harmonious march towards the final destination as stipulated in the Abuja Treaty. without any negligence. That is, all the projects that have already been initiated, and thanks to the efforts of one and all. I want to draw our attention to the shortcomings and inadequacies that continue to challenge us in order to complete the integration process. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Abuja Treaty of 1991, and more recently the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, have been decisive steps in the process, but is the irreversible process of integration. There have been bold attempts, that is, to establish conditions for greater fluidity of intra-African trade through the facilitation of trade, the reduction of tariff barriers, and the rules of origin and initiative on guided trade. These progress has been supported by the protocol on the mobility of capitals, the free movement of persons and goods, and also a vision in order to take up the challenges of infrastructure considered as a major impediment to integration. At the same time, the institutional process was consolidated with the establishment of the instruments and organs of continental size. But the delay in the operationalization of these financial institutions, and I want to commend the efforts of President Nana Akufo-Addo, the champion for these financial institutions of the African Union. His commitment has brought to the African scene and arena, despite all the difficulties that are related to the complex nature of the problem. And thanks to his dynamism, we still have a ray of hope and to see the financial institutions emerging from the baptismal fronts. Obviously, this is also compounded by other problems which are contained in the reports that are already on the agenda of our meeting. On analyzing these reports and my personal experience of integration, I see and I feel the imperative need and duty to share with you in a very schematic manner some observations. The first one is on the issue of sovereignty. I'm not talking of the function of the state, but that dimension of supranationality. That is, we have to identify the outlines and also identify the areas. At the level of integration, this will depend on the relative autonomy of action and the consequent subsidiarity to be recognized to the regional entities. Second one is to maximize the potential of the AFCFTA in order to make it a model of growth and diversification of our economy, with the prospect of increasing intra-African trade within the continent. Like AFCFTA obviously has to become, the obligation to become a catalyst of the structural that will facilitate the creation of wealth, improvement of economic governance, and mobilization of financing and human capital. In regard to this observation, it is advisable that we go to major meetings in fora by speaking with one voice. I'm here referring to major fora, among which we have the G20, of which now we are a member, and also the fora where strategic issues like the reform of international financial institutions, where debt, energy transition and other issues are discussed. The Summit of the Future in September 2024 is looming on the horizon, and it will be good that Africa does prepare itself for it. And also in relation to the capacity to have a just distribution of wealth, but in the compensation fund with 11 billion euros is welcome, but it is not enough to bridge the development gap and development financing gap that exists. We need innovative mechanisms, solidarity, mobilize funds for an inclusive growth. The fourth observation relates to our capacity to build relations of complementarity between the AFCFTA and the regional economic communities. In this perspective, it is fundamental that the AFCFTA look at other activities also of the REX as the treaty that established it stipulates. In that way, we will give value to the actions and activities, and also will overcome the difficulties on the relations between the REX and the Member States and the Commission and the FTA. The fifth one is a strengthening of interaction between economic integration of the continent and the consolidation of peace building. As an illustration, I want to say the Inter-Regional Knowledge Exchange Platform, IREC, and the early warning system and conflict prevention, which was launched in July 2022, deserves greater attention in terms of the appropriate funding, and also the regional economic communities to participate and uphold it for a greater coordination also. I want to welcome the success achieved by the Peace Fund. The objective we set of $400 million has been reached. Better still, the African private sector is committed, and last night many African companies and firms have made pledges, substantive amounts to this fund. And I want to express my pride as regards the contribution of the staff of the Union. I hope since peace concerns everyone, we hope that all Africans will also show their interest and concern. These are some observations and some of the challenges that I wanted to bring to your attention. Obviously, there are others that will emerge, and also with regard to our regional economic communities, and therefore it behoves us to look at our future actions in order to consolidate our momentum for integration and make it more dynamic and make it more integrated and more offensive. I want to conclude where I began, and with great deference and respect, and since this is the last coordination summit in my capacity as the chairperson of the Union, I want to express my gratitude to the heads of state present here or represented for all the support that they have given me throughout my stay at the helm of the Organization of the African Union. President Nana Akufo-Addo, when I took up office, my first surprise was to note that there was no institution, there was no structure, no bureau of the African Union in the country of Kwame Nkrumah. This was a major anomaly. I can today bear witness that thanks to your tenacity and your commitment, one of our flagship projects, which is very emblematic, that is the establishment of the African Continental Free Trade Area, has its headquarters here in Accra. Last year, in 2023, you have organized the African Games, where the African youth came to pay tribute to Kwame Nkrumah. And finally, the cherry is today, the cherry on the cake is that you are hosting us today. I know you are going to leave office, but you will go head high. And finally, I want to commend the fruitful cooperation that we have with the regional economic communities and the regional mechanism, through which we have been able to reinvigorate and renew the cooperation within the general dynamics of the reform of our union. To all the permanent actors of the Coordination Summit and those who wish to continue and perpetuate the tradition, I want to say goodbye and that we meet in other places, and I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Excellency, Mr. Chairperson of the African Union Commission, for your inspiring statement. والآن فإن لي عظيم الفخر والشرف أن أدعو فخامة الرئيس.
And I have the honor to call on to the podium His Excellency Mohammed Sheikh El Ghazouani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairperson of the African Union, to make his opening statement.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله على النبي الكريم. صاحب الفخامة السيد
Your Excellency, Mr. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana, distinguished heads of state and government, Your Excellency, Mr. Musa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, may I start by extending my congratulations and gratitude to my brother and friend, His Excellency Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, of President of Ghana, and to his people and government for the very warm welcome and generous hospitality and the perfect and seamless organization of the SEED AU Media Coordination Meeting between the AU and the regional economic communities and the regional mechanisms. May I also thank my brothers, the other heads of state who are here, and the CEOs and presidents of the regional economic communities, as well as our champions, for all heeding to the call to meet here today, and for actually displaying their commitment towards the continental integration. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the effective coordination between the African Union and the regional economic communities is a determining factor towards achieving the continental integration which we are all aspiring to reach, because of the challenges, the multiple economic, social and security related challenges that are plaguing our continent today, but also due to the multiple challenges that we have in Africa today, and that are affecting and delaying our development. And that is the reason why I think it is urgent for us to speed up our efforts towards economic integration, and we have to be sure that this is done very well in order to support the continent and to meet the aspirations of our people in the various countries of Africa. Integration, as you know, integration would help us to ensure unity, solidarity, and also to better get the voice of our continent heard within the United Nations, within the IMF, within the G20, and within the World Bank and others. So the voice of Africa will make it possible for our continent to contribute efficiently towards the transformation of the world and the continent, and also to focus to focus on the concerns of our continent, like the reform of the monetary system. And it will also help us to combat terrorism and also to ensure sustainable financing of our organization. We need to speed up efforts towards strategic planning, to have proper institutions on the continent, to support the existing institutions, and also to have digital economy. This is going to make it possible for us to have bilateral trade in order to harmonize our methods and facilitate the flow of information. The AFCFTA is actually giving us that hope. It's giving us the hope of having transformation on the continent, especially in terms of free movement and of people and goods on the continent. And this definitely is going to help us to speed up the continental integration efforts. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in order to implement the second decade of Agenda 2063, we are trying to mobilize more funding. And our brother, William Ruto, invited us to a meeting in Nairobi. And we are trying as much as possible to increase our resources beyond $100 billion, and because we already have 30 billion provided by the donors. Our countries are actually taking part in the Africa-Korea Summit, and at that meeting, this also helps us a lot to step up funding, because the South Korea is also trying to chip in its help towards the development of Africa. So we have $5.5 million that have been stepped up to $10 million. And also we have $14 million devoted to financing export, especially to support export companies on the continent. During our participation at the summit, the summit, we talked about the debt-related issues. Delegations of the African Union were quite active and efficient during the year, especially in different ministerial meetings, but also in sectoral working groups. The representatives of Africa defended the colors and the interests of the continent, especially in matters relating to transformation, like energy transformation and financial reforms. Our continent is going to participate in the UN Summit of the Future, slated for September 2024 in New York. And so we have to make sure that the outcomes and the decisions of that summit should directly impact the lives of Africa, the lives of young generations, especially in the area of digital science, because we do have concerns of Africa, but we should be able to find solutions to these problems. And I am calling on all member states to actively take part in the ongoing action for us to prepare this historical summit that is coming up in September. We want to ensure that there is an active participation on Africa in meetings like FOCAC, the UN the UN Summit for the Future, COP29, and also the G20 Summit. We are also working hand in hand with the African Union Commission to have a high-level meeting on education in October in Nouakchott. I want to commend all the roles that have been played by the African Union Commission, but also all the other organs in support of the second 10-year plan, especially when it comes to integration matters. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the challenges inherent in regional and continental integration for the future of the African people, these challenges actually call on us all as African leaders to be responsible individually and collectively. So we all have to be committed individually and collectively, and also calls us to be attached to this ambitious goal and to do our level best to build an Africa that is stable, strong, prosperous and united as enshrined in Agenda 2063. As far as I'm concerned, I am convinced that the SEED AU Media Coordination meeting with the regional economic communities and the REMs, I want to clearly define, I declare this meeting that I'm going to declare open in a few minutes. I would want that we all contribute towards its success, and I'll declare it open.
شكرا فخامة الرئيس على كلمتكم الضافية. Ladies and gentlemen, I shall now invite our excellencies, heads of states and governments, heads of delegations, the chairperson of the African Union Commission and the deputy chairperson of the African Commission, heads of RECs, regional communities, and heads of regional mechanisms for the official photo, which is going to be exactly just at the gate of this building. So immediately after the family photo, the closed session will resume in this very same room. Moving forward, His Excellency, the chairperson of the Union, will guide the rest of the session. With that, I thank you all for your time and attention, and I wish you fruitful deliberations. Thank you very much. Thank you.